Good morning. I haven't done a truly political show in a few weeks. There's been a lot of social issues that I've been more concerned with recently. But I do want to say the Michael Cohen case, it affected me, and that is because I've always admired lawyers. I know some of you say, oh, lawyers, blah, blah, blah. Everybody says that people hate lawyers until they need one. And when you need one, you're very grateful. You're grateful for a good attorney who takes their oath seriously. And attorneys do take an oath. It's called attorney-client privilege, which means the second you pay an attorney any amount of money, you can tell them anything. And they can never disclose it. They cannot be forced to disclose it. And yet, as we saw with Michael Cohen, I guess it depends who your client is. Because if your client is hated the way that President Trump is hated by members of the justice system and this Mueller investigation, then attorney-client privilege somehow no longer exists. And yet it should. It should. You know, don't feel sorry for Michael Cohen. Please don't. Because he is the worst. He's worse than Donald Trump. Because as an attorney, he should know when he became an attorney that sometimes you might be called upon to represent clients that you don't necessarily like or agree with. You might be called upon to represent people who have committed heinous crimes, and they deserve a defense. That's what our justice system says. Everybody deserves a defense. School shooters get lawyers. Mass murderers, serial killers, they get lawyers. Donald Trump hired Michael Cohen as his personal attorney. Michael Cohen said, I'll take your money, Mr. Trump. Glad to work for you, Mr. Trump. I'll take a bullet for you, Mr. Trump. But when push came to shove, here's one thing I won't do for you, Mr. Trump. I'm not going to jail like forever for you, Mr. Trump. And I don't know, maybe someone will comment on this. I have some lawyer friends, but I think he should have gone to jail for life rather than record his client without his client's consent and hand over personal documents that his client, while he was his attorney, entrusted him with, hand them over. Just don't put me in jail for a long time. I have a family. Well, maybe you should have thought about your family, Mr. Cohen, before you took Mr. Trump's money. Did you not know who Mr. Trump was when he hired you? When you started seeing things that disturbed you, when maybe if Mr. Trump did actually ask you to do things that were outside the law, you should have said, you know what, Donald, I'm sorry. I took an oath. I'll protect you up to this point, but I can no longer be your attorney. I'm going to resign. No, he didn't do any of that. He kept taking Trump's money, and then he started putting away his little insurance policy, just in case. And then the Justice Department came and indicted his dumbass. And instead of saying, look, I can't talk to you. It's attorney-client privilege. It's protected. He spilled it all. Now, he has been disbarred. I guess he doesn't care. And you know why he doesn't care? Because this little mouse of a man that none of you would ever want to be your attorney, he's going to go to jail for 3 years, probably in a country club jail where he'll play tennis every afternoon. And in his spare time, he's going to write his memoirs. Yes, he's going to get a book deal. He's probably already wondering who's going to play him in the movie. Because he was asked point blank, are you saying to us right now, Mr. Cohen, you are not going to write a book ever, and you have no movie deal? And he answered honestly on this one. He said, no, I can't tell you that. Because he does have a book deal. He does have a movie deal. So he knew he was going to lose his law license by giving Trump up. But he doesn't care. Because at the end of the day, his family isn't going to lose their lifestyle they've become accustomed to by having a very wealthy client like Donald Trump. Plus, he's going to make all this money. He probably already got the advance on the book. He's going to write the book while he's in jail. And then there'll be a movie and maybe an Oscar nomination and blah, 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 blah. This is the kind of lawyer we don't want, guys. I got to tell you the truth. I always thought being a lawyer was a noble profession. Because lawyers need to take on clients whether they believe in them or not. There's many cases where lawyers are assigned to clients because they're poor. They have to do it pro bono, or they're public defenders, and they have to give them the best defense possible even though they know their client is guilty. But they can't go out and say, oh yeah, he told me he did it. They can't do that. Because it's a sacred oath. It's a sacred relationship, attorney and client. That's what that oath is all about. If you saw the movie The Firm or read the book, you understood. Tom Cruise's character said, I will not breach attorney-client privilege. But here's what I can give you. Mail fraud. It has teeth. Remember that? He never breached attorney-client privilege. He just said, we overbill people, and we send those bills through the mail. He never told any of his clients' secrets, even though his clients were criminals. He wouldn't breach the privilege. Good for him. And I know it's a book and a movie, but damn, Michael Cohen, you just threw lawyers all over the country under the bus, because now, the next time I go to my attorney's office to discuss something, I'm going to be like, you're not recording this, are you? Because I am not giving you permission to record this, and if you record this, I'm going to sue your ass. Right now, Donald Trump could sue Michael Cohen because he breached attorney-client privilege. At least I think he can. You know what's no bueno, no good, no nada, don't do it? Qué horrible? You don't record a client without their permission and save the tapes in case you get indicted for something your client did. You don't do that. It's not legal. Michael Cohen has broken many laws, and what's he getting? 3 years in prison, a book deal, and a movie. Wonder who's going to play him. See, the problem is Michael Cohen loved it when he was in Donald Trump's inner circle. And remember, this is not an affirmation of Donald Trump. I have my issues with Donald Trump. But right now, I'm not looking at Donald Trump as the tweeting president, the lover of dictators. I'm not looking at him. I'm looking at him as a client of an attorney. And that attorney screwed his client. He screwed him. He's a crook. He's a racist. He's a con man. He's a cheat. A lawyer isn't allowed to say that. But he's like, well, I've already been disbarred, so what the hell do I care? Well, see, that's the problem. You should care. Because you took an oath. I used to want to be a lawyer. Some days I still do, because I like the idea of having a client that I may not like, that I may not agree with, but my job being to use the law, the legal system, to give them at least a chance of defending themselves against the state, against a crime the state says they committed. I like the idea of that. I like the idea of going up against big corporations and saying, you've harmed my clients. You're going to pay for it. I love the law because the law is blind. The law is not supposed to see wealth, color, nationality, religion. The law is supposed to be equal for everybody, including Donald Trump. See, that's where it gets all mixed up in my head, because I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump, but in this situation, I feel sorry for him. He paid a lawyer. He thought he had attorney-client confidentiality, and the lawyer just rolls over on him. And shame on the Mueller investigation and the Justice Department and Congress for forcing an attorney to choose between his freedom and his oath as an attorney. I would love to hear comments on this, especially from those of you who may be attorneys. How would you handle a situation like this? I mean, how important is attorney-client privilege? I mean, look at the HIPAA law. You're supposed to have doctor-patient confidentiality, and yet we know that that's completely gone too. Insurance companies, they know what the results of your blood work is. They know based on what further testing is needed, or they know when you have cancer, even though you didn't give your doctor permission to tell an insurance company, strangers, that you've been diagnosed with cancer or with something else. They know about it. Hell, they'll tell you. I called an insurance company to talk about a bill, and they said, well, you do know. I'm like, yeah, I do know. I know that there was a small issue with some of the blood work, and it's got to be redone in March, but that's not what I called you for. But thanks for telling me. I already know. My spouse told me. It's fine. But they told me anyway, which technically, based on HIPAA, they shouldn't have done. And they shouldn't even know about, but they know. And then, of course, if you get your health insurance through an employer, well, your employer knows, because health insurance companies send your employer something called, God, I forget the exact name. It's basically the employee usage report. And that's how they justify raising your rates, the employer rates, so that you can raise the rates your employees pay. And they say, well, so-and-so employee has this and has that, and they're using more of the health insurance, and that's why we're raising the rates. So even your employer knows things that should be between you and your doctor. You know, these oaths that people take, when people say, I want my medical status to be private, it's not. It's not. Corporations know about it. Insurance companies know about it. Your employer knows about it. And same thing with attorneys, I guess, now. I guess the next time I go to my lawyer's office, even though I'm a law-abiding citizen, I've never done anything wrong. I don't have anything to really hide. But again, if someone decides to charge me with something, I certainly don't want my lawyer to give it all up. So I guess I'm going to have to ask, first of all, am I being recorded? If you actually ask, they have to tell you. Here's the problem. Most of us, when we need a lawyer for certain situations, it's at one of the lowest times of our lives. Or it's for something that's very private, like making a will, or a power of attorney, or getting a divorce, or doing a prenup. Do we really want our lawyers to record those conversations? Especially during like a divorce, or even making a will. I don't want that person to get one dime of my money because they're a son of a bitch. Do you want your lawyer to say that? And by the way, the attorney-client privilege is still valid after death, unless you say it's not, technically. Like if I make a will and I put a letter in that will that explains why I made the will, that's fine. But if I say to my attorney while I'm making the will, that bastard isn't getting one dime of my money, that lawyer can't go and tell that person I said that. That's attorney-client privilege. But I guess now I'm going to have to start asking. Because Michael Cohen has taken lawyers to a new low. He's made lawyers look like, to protect themselves, maybe they should start recording their clients, putting personal documents, making copies of personal documents just in case. By all means, take your client's money. Defend your client in court. But don't go to jail for your client. I didn't sign off on that when I got my law degree. Well, Michael Cohen, actually you did. Sad thing is, you didn't take it seriously. You cared more about Donald Trump's money than you did about Donald Trump, your client. And that makes actually Donald Trump the victim. Political Paula, out.